It's probably the only one I have from my college days, and it's me weaving tapestry. Now, I'm nearly 70. I'll be 70 in October, and I'm really pleased and excited about that because I only feel half my age, you know, and I'm still working really hard, and thankfully I still have full health. That's the main thing. I want to project love and care and health and happiness into all of these symbols that I'm weaving. I sit down low at the beginning of the weaving because I need to be, you know, face to face with it all the time. Yeah, so the commission was given to me. Let me see now. Her ancestor is this Columban priest here. These were very young men when they went to Korea. They were Columban missionaries. So I believe it will hang in the Korean embassy in Dublin or the Korean embassy in Korea, the Irish embassy in Korea. But as I work up along, I begin to sit on a chair, a stool. The table here behind me will bring me up to here. I'll stand for a while, and then I'll build a scaffolding around the weaving. I'll be on a scaffold, yeah. Well, we've these two wooden ladders, and I put a plank of wood across them, so I can lift it up whatever height I want. This yarn, white yarn, it's the fleece off the sheep. It's literally my local farmer would shear his sheep every year in the spring. And like the first few years I was living here, people used to drop off fleeces at my door because they knew I was weaving and spinning. I had to tell people to stop in the end because I had so many fleeces gathered that I wasn't going to use, you know. There's a lot of the original fleece still kind of there, you know, in the yarn, you can see it. First term that Donald Trump was in power, and I started hearing and seeing on the news pictures of children being taken from their parents and being held like almost like in a cage in the southern border, Mexican children. And we had just had a new grandson at the time. And I was just imagining what that must have been like for the children and the parents. I read an article where one little 8-year-old was minding a few babies on her own in these cages. So I got this idea of what it would have felt like to be torn apart from your child. And this weaving was woven then. So I wove it again on its side, and I left warp threads showing in the middle. So on that loom, if you can imagine, I wove it over, back, until I went up halfway. And then I wove the second half of it on the back of that loom and left all those white threads visible. I didn't cut them or turn it back or make a hem. So they hang in the middle between this weaving. And I've shown it in different ways in different galleries. I would be completely obsessed with my work, you know, total obsession really. I could work here every single day. That would be my favourite thing to do. I'd put it first on the agenda every day. I don't want to say this to hurt or offend anybody. I absolutely loved being in lockdown. Now I know loads of people didn't, but it meant I was able to go fully back into myself and really think about what I wanted to do now with this time. You have to use your brain, your hand, there's so much going on, you know, to remember what to do and how to weave it. Nah, just all these different processes.
He started analysing his own work, it might stop it in its tracks. And I agree with him thoroughly. I think it's the less thinking I do, the better. Let that dry until I've got about 5,000 of them, and keep on doing this eventually, those white ones would be, when they're dry, they'll be put in there like that. I will get the block of them and concertina them in. It's like a child that has grown up and it's outside you, or it's you can't do any more to it. I've still got a lot of more burning to do on it, and then I'll see if I can peel it off. But it's fascinating what happens. And I've seen my father's mill at one stage, half of it burnt down, and it was extraordinary to watch. If it wasn't my father's mill, it would have been very exciting. The worst pain in the world is yours, because you're feeling it. Yeah, it's been there. The more it's talked about, the more people accept it as one of the trials of life. I had a bad bout when I was in college. I think through the isolation of being in London, partly, but partly one's nature, and that's come back in regular intervals. It's the only thing I resent in this life. But you know, I think of one of the fishermen that I read about, and he'd been through the First War, and it hit him so bad, and there was no help at all. And when the Second World War was coming, he went and shot himself. I think about death as little as possible because I can't do much about it, and it scares me. But it doesn't actually impinge on me. I'm a late developer in everything I do. Maybe I'll live forever just to catch up.
It's totally collaborative, and that was an exciting departure, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
And it's something we want to expand on and develop, because if you like, this totally eliminates ego.
How we behave as individuals changes when we're within a community.
Who's the boss around here?
Tell you what, we pamper.
Oh yeah, we have. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the way to do it. I'm really amazed to see people of our age doing what we do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seems very natural for all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. But certainly, and for my age, I just can't believe I'm still alive. I'll tell you why, because at 45, I was definitely dying of cancer.
That's true.
At 52, I was definitely dying of cancer. And hey, here I am.
Of our discussions about the project, pages and pages of where we've discussed, and it's all about refining down from something as rough and ready as this through something a little bit more specific down to an actual template. It doesn't all just happen.
Worked on that, and that drew us into the whole area of the difference it would make if you had different lines and different angles, because everything is rectangular, square in the creation of a lot of two-dimensional art anyway. And that combined with a poem we came across which kind of spoke about age and the aging eye and what the advantages of having less than perfect sight is. And we kind of took off from there to do this batty thing of creating these angular scaffoldings that we can hang paintings on, but that meant that the paintings had to somehow address the three-dimensionality of this scaffolding.
Each one will be different. No two the same, because the 10-degree angle cut allows for quite a number of permutations of shapes. Yeah, well, what this is all, well, it's a continuation, I suppose, as you were saying, Fifi, of our notion about geometry. And you see, you and Helen being former architects, okay, you have a concept of geometry. I welded these. All right.
Okay, so these are hand welded, so the home welded, so, and they have worm screws so we can tighten them, but there's a little seam in there, unfortunately, and that makes them a bit sticky. So I made this tool so that I can sand it to make it more flexible.
Oh yes, we are the triumph of optimism over reality.
I love that saying, art heals the wounds inflicted by reason. When I've gone through any traumatic experiences, that art does heal the wounds. Okay, the story of exhibiting in space. I love saying this, actually, that I'm the only Irish artist who's exhibited in space. And the involvement was that we had to do an illustration, postcard size, of space, and the works were scanned and they went up on the last space shuttle. There hasn't been another one since, and this was done in 2011. These little things happen to you once in a lifetime. You do something special, so you get joy from it and the remembrance of it as well. That's it. So it went up in the space shuttle. And I opened a Trooper Gallery, which is in Paul Street in Cork, and I had that for about 2 years. And it was really, really hard financially to survive. And I searched Cork, and I searched, and eventually I found a place. I opened it in 1978, September 1978, with the first program. And that was the start of the Triskel Arts Centre. But it was a joy to do, and a lovely legacy to leave behind for Cork City. And it's still going. So the art statements are a mass of art statements. And for example, for a work of art, we need the hand, the eye, and the heart. There's so many of them. I always knew I was adopted, obviously, and it stayed in here, and it stayed in here. And when the opportunity arose, legally in Northern Ireland, I did find my mother's name, my birth mother's name. And eventually I did find her in the early 90s. And eventually she was told by a third party of my existence. And sadly, she didn't want to meet me at all. She passed away in 1999, if I remember correctly. And it was a long journey, but a sad one maybe. It's very strange that I'm actually in my studio room somewhere in the dark, But I'm actually going to read a poem, which is, I didn't think I was going to be reading this, but it's entitled The Last Poem. And it's the last poem I ever did for my birth mother, named Letitia, whom I never met. As the seasons turned, you broke into my sleep, captured my dreams with your own design. As I yearned for things that might have been, they fell as wordless whispers through the mist of time. After waiting in turmoil, your trespass is no longer the seductive invasion of yesterday. The strings have been cut. There's no pain between you and I anymore. My anguish has faded into constrictive singleness. I will think of you at this time of leaving, as your memory is taken to besiege another.
We offer each other as whispers in the night, as the last poem read, as the silence of loving, as you are, as I am, we are for each other.
Oh yes, age is a weird thing. You wake up one morning and you suddenly find you're 80 years old. And there's this strange kind of panic about how you're going to do all the things that you really want to do. I mean, is it going to be possible? There seems to be a strange kind of urgency in my work. I want to make better art, and quickly and as much as possible, and make some kind of comment on the world we live in 2025. At the moment, I'm absolutely obsessed by the wars that are going on. Maybe it's because I was a war baby. I was born in the middle of the Second World War. I was a sort of a refugee in my own country. I was evacuated and sent away from my home where the bombing was in the city with a label round my neck with a whole lot of other children. I think we went on a train, and I was one of the smallest of them, and they used to call me the poor wee thing. And for a long time I thought that was my name. My father, he was in the same war. He was a soldier, and he was blown up, half his side gone. He lost his arm, and I remember there was a hole in the back of his ear you could put your finger in. And he was never quite the same afterwards. I don't know if that's why I feel the need to comment through my art. On the utter futility of it all, the sheer horror of war.
Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the cat.